She didn't look at me when she handed over the earbuds, just dropped them onto the coffee table like she couldn't stand to be touching them anymore. "You need to listen to this," she said. Then she walked out of the room. No explanation. No context. Not even a glance back. I sat there for a second, staring at the earbuds like they were ticking. I thought maybe it was something innocent. A voicemail? A recording from her therapy session? Maybe one of those guided meditations she always pretended worked but never finished? But the silence in the house, it wasn't the kind you fill with background music. It was the kind that follows you. The kind that wraps around your neck. I picked up the earbuds with 2 fingers, like I might catch something from them, and plugged them in. It started mid-conversation. Someone, her, laughing. Not her usual laugh. This one was too light. Performed. She only used that voice when she was trying to impress people. Then a man answered. His voice was low, confident, a little too familiar. I paused the audio immediately. Not because I didn't recognize him, but because I did. See, I'd spent months second-guessing myself, wondering if I was just being paranoid. If the way she angled her phone away from me meant nothing. If her sudden obsession with spinning classes was legit, even though she never came back sweaty. If it was normal to flinch every time she said she was staying late. I even Googled how to know if your wife is cheating, like a pathetic sitcom husband. Then deleted the search history like a teenager hiding porn. And here I was, earbuds in, alone on the couch, listening to proof. I pressed play again. He said something about me. I couldn't catch the exact words, but I heard my name. I heard the phrase, "he still thinks," and my heart started pounding so hard I couldn't even hear the rest over the blood rushing through my ears. I ripped the earbuds out and just sat there. I should have gone after her, demanded answers, thrown something, yelled, anything. Instead, I sat with my fists pressed into my eyes, trying not to cry, because somewhere deep down, I'd already known. But I didn't know the full story yet, not even close, because what she was about to tell me next, it wasn't just betrayal. It was a choice she'd already made, and it didn't include me. I didn't move for a while, just stared at the blank television screen like it might start showing me answers. I could still feel her perfume in the room, warm, floral, too sweet, the kind she wore when she wanted something. But there was nothing she could want from me now. That was the real punch in the throat. She didn't care if I heard the recording. She wanted me to hear it. Eventually, I got up, walked to the bedroom like I was heading into a courtroom. She was lying on her side, facing away from the door, covers pulled up to her shoulders like she was the innocent one who needed protection. "I heard it," I said. She didn't reply. I stood there like an idiot, waiting, expecting. I don't even know what. An apology? A breakdown? Tears. Instead, she sighed, like she was the one exhausted. And then she said, "I figured it was time." Time? Time for what? To gut me? I asked her how long it had been going on. She sat up slowly, brushing her hair back like we were just discussing bills or taxes. "About 4 months," she said. "It started out small." Small. That's how she described it. Like it was a parking ticket or a hangnail. I laughed, but it came out as a wheeze. "And what? It just grew? Like mold?" That got her. Her lips tightened. She looked down. "He wasn't supposed to matter," she said quietly. He listened. That line. He listened. I don't think she even realized how much that destroyed me. I thought I'd been listening. I thought every late-night conversation, every walk, every birthday I spent trying to outdo myself meant something. I was never flashy, but I tried. God, I tried so hard to be enough. She continued, eyes still fixed on her lap. And then I started saying things to him I didn't even know I felt. Things I didn't know how to say to you. I asked her why. Why didn't she say them to me? Her answer? "Because you always looked scared." That hit harder than anything. Because it was true. I was always afraid. Afraid to push, afraid to pry, afraid that if I asked too many questions, I'd uncover exactly what I now knew, that I was never really safe with her. And she took advantage of that. She weaponized it. Then she said the worst part. I was going to let it fade. I really was. Just let him be a phase and come back to you like nothing happened. That's when the ground gave out under me. She'd already decided. She was going to lie forever. Bury it. Smile. Sleep next to me. Let me grow old next to someone who only came back because her affair got boring. I asked her why the hell she let me listen to the recording then. And her answer? Because he's not done. He recorded more. And he said if I didn't tell you, he would. So that was it. Blackmail. The guy she cheated with turned on her. And I was the pawn in their little power struggle. I wasn't even worth the truth on my own. Just a secret waiting to be exposed. And the worst part? It still wasn't over. Because in less than 24 hours, I would find out that the affair was the least painful part of this. I didn't sleep that night. I lay there next to her, our bodies not touching, a canyon of silence between us, and stared at the ceiling while my brain clawed at every timeline, every excuse. Every Thursday night, I spent watching reruns and heating leftovers, thinking she was exhausted from meetings. She wasn't tired. She was full of someone else's attention, full of another life. And now she had the audacity to sleep next to me like nothing had happened, like her confession had somehow earned her rest. I watched the clock tick past 3 o'clock, then 4:15, then 5 o'clock. Eventually I got up. I didn't know what I was looking for, but I needed to move, needed to breathe. My chest felt tight, like my own ribs were trying to crush me from the inside. I opened her laptop. I know how that sounds. I shouldn't have. Privacy, boundaries, blah blah blah. But come on. After hearing your wife cheat in stereo, trust becomes a myth. She had no password. That hurt too, honestly. The fact that she didn't even think she needed to hide anything on the laptop. Because I was never the guy who snooped. I was the guy who gave her space. The guy who made it easy. The desktop was clean. Too clean. But the browser? That was the jackpot. A folder of bookmarked links titled Marketing Clients. A normal name. Harmless, even. But when I opened it, the websites weren't for marketing. They were encrypted chat platforms, file dump links, and a Dropbox that didn't have her name on it, but did have his. I clicked. Inside were photos. Some of her, yes, private ones I didn't recognize, but worse than that were the documents. PDFs, scans, invoices, contracts, with my name on them. I opened one. It was an invoice from my side business, the small freelance print work I did on the weekends. But the formatting was off. My logo was blurry. My signature was copied and pasted in. That's when my stomach turned. She had forged my documents. I clicked through another folder. It was labeled April Hold. Inside were 6 contracts, all tied to my business name, all signed, all fake. I whispered, "What the hell did you do?" The next file was a scan of her email exchange with a man I didn't know, some third-party client. He was asking why the payments were being routed through her personal account instead of mine. She replied that she handled my finances now and that everything was above board. She was embezzling from me, not just emotionally betraying me, but financially burying me under paperwork I'd never seen. And I'd have never known if her side piece hadn't decided to light a match. I sat back, staring at the screen, completely numb. That's when I heard the sound of the shower turning on upstairs. She was getting ready for her day, like nothing happened, like she hadn't built a second life right under my nose, using my name to keep it propped up. And the craziest part? I still hadn't seen the worst of it, because the final folder in that Dropbox was called Plan B, and the files inside would wreck every remaining piece of the man I thought I was. I hovered my mouse over the Plan B folder for a full minute before clicking. My hand was trembling, not from rage anymore, but from this twisted cocktail of dread, heartbreak, and something uglier, shame. Not because of what I'd done, but because deep down I knew. I had let all of this happen. I had made myself easy to step over. I double-clicked the folder. There were 4 files. The first was a Word doc titled, "What I'll Say If He Finds Out." I opened it. I swear my breathing stopped halfway through the first paragraph. She had scripted it. A full conversation. In bullet points. Justifications. Emotional manipulation tactics. Phrases like, "I felt lost," and "You were never emotionally present." And my personal favorite, "You always focused on your small business more than me." I wanted to vomit. She hadn't written it after the affair started. She'd prepared it before she ever said a word. Like she'd rehearsed betrayal the same way you rehearse a PowerPoint. I could practically hear her voice in my head delivering those lines with fake tears, pausing for sympathy, painting herself as the victim. She planned my reaction before I even knew there was something to react to. The second file was a spreadsheet. Income tracking. Not hers. Mine. Every freelance job I'd done for the past 8 months. Dates. Client names. Payment amounts. Even the ones I hadn't deposited yet. The only way she'd know some of those was if she had access to my email or my notebook. Which she did. Because I was the idiot who used to ask, "Babe, can you remind me to invoice the Thompson job on Friday?" and leave my passwords on sticky notes under my keyboard. She'd used it all, weaponized my trust like a scalpel. The third file was a scanned document, a partially filled out rental application. A nice place, too. Downtown. Loft style. Her name and another person's filled in as co-tenants. The other name? Not mine. Not the guy from the voice recording either. Someone else. I recognized the name, though, from my inbox. He was a supplier. A vendor I'd worked with. A guy I'd referred her to for design help on a branding job she claimed she couldn't figure out on her own. Turns out she'd figured it out just fine, including how to move in with him. But it was the fourth file, the last one, that finished me. It was a voice memo, not like the one I'd listened to the night before. This one was short, just 12 seconds. I hit play. Her voice. Calm. Collected. No nerves. No remorse. I've got everything backed up. If he gets weird or tries to flip this on me, I'll say he forged the documents himself. He's anxious enough to look unstable anyway. Then a beep. End of file. That's how she saw me. Unstable. Disposable. A man she could destroy if he ever stepped out of line. I sat back in the chair and stared at the screen, my mouth dry, my legs numb, every part of me collapsing inward. Because this wasn't just betrayal. This wasn't just cheating. This was a strategy, and it was already in motion. The only reason she hadn't pulled the trigger yet was because her backup plan fell apart before she could disappear. She didn't confess out of guilt. She got caught before she could vanish. And now I was the wild card. But the thing is, she still didn't know I'd seen everything. She thought I'd just heard the voice memo. She thought I'd cry a little, maybe beg, maybe scream. What she didn't think was that I'd get quiet. And when I get quiet, I start building something of my own. Not revenge. Not yet. But something worse than silence. A plan. I closed her laptop gently. No slamming. No yelling. I just sat there for a while, staring at my reflection in the black screen. I looked pathetic. Not in the way movies make heartbreak look. Rain on your face, shouting into the night. No. I looked like a man who had been quietly replaced. Rewritten. Like someone had hit backspace on my life and started typing over it in a font I didn't recognize. But then something strange happened. I stopped shaking. It was like my nervous system finally gave up trying to protect me and just stepped aside. And in that eerie calm, something else moved in. Something colder. She came downstairs about 30 minutes later, dressed like it was any other Friday. Cream sweater. High ponytail. That fake smile face she used when she needed to manipulate without seeming like she was. I left you coffee, she said, nodding toward the kitchen. Did you sleep? I didn't answer. I just blinked slow and muttered, not really. She stood there, waiting for more. Probably expecting me to bring it up. The cheating, the recording, her voice saying my name like it was an inconvenience. But I didn't. And that scared her. I could see it. The way she shifted her weight from one foot to the other, adjusting her sleeve, trying to act casual. She was trying to control the narrative before I caught up. I know this is a lot, she said. I was going to tell you. I really was. I just didn't know how. I nodded like I believed her. Then I did something that changed the entire trajectory of what would happen next. I smiled. Just a little. Just enough to confuse her. Okay, I said. Let's figure it out. Her eyes widened. For a second, I saw panic flicker across her face, because she realized something. That I wasn't reacting the way she'd prepared for. She was ready for tears, blame, dramatic ultimatums. But not this. And that's when I knew I had the upper hand. Not because I was stronger. Not because I was smarter. But because she couldn't read me anymore. And if she couldn't predict me, she couldn't control me. She left for work shortly after that. Or at least she said it was work. I didn't ask. Didn't care. Because I had more important things to do. I pulled out my old phone, the one I hadn't used in over a year. Charged it up. Factory reset. No trace of anything linked to her. Then I started making calls. One to my buddy Max, who used to do IT forensic consulting before he got burned out and moved to Oregon to build motorcycles. I asked him if he still knew how to mirror cloud drives without triggering security alerts. His exact words, "What did she do?" I didn't answer. Second call was to the accountant who helped me set up my print business when it was just a side hustle. I asked about legal exposure if someone had been forging contracts using my business identity. He said we should talk in person. I spent the rest of the afternoon creating a duplicate copy of everything on that laptop. Files, browser history, email drafts, even cache data. I had no idea what might be useful later, But I was done being the guy who reacted too late. I wanted proof. And not for revenge. For protection. Because here's what no one tells you about being betrayed. It's not the heartbreak that ruins you. It's the gaslighting. The slow erosion of your memory, your instincts, your sense of reality. You start to question whether any of it ever really happened the way you thought. I wasn't going to let her rewrite this one. Not this time. And while I was backing everything up, I found something else. A draft email. Never sent. Just sitting in her outbox. Subject line. I think he knows. The message was short. He's acting strange. I think he saw something. We need to move the timeline up. Timeline. Move what up? That was the first time I realized she wasn't just preparing to leave. She was preparing to erase me. By Saturday morning, my body had officially stopped caring about food or rest. I hadn't eaten more than half a granola bar in 2 days, and every time I looked at it sitting on the counter, still half wrapped in its sad little foil, like a forgotten idea, I felt sick. I didn't even know why I kept it. Maybe just to prove I wasn't completely unraveling. But I was. Quietly. Strategically. Precisely. By then I had copied every file from her devices onto an external drive and encrypted it with a password that meant something only to me. I won't say what it is, not because I think she'll ever read this, but because if I speak it out loud, it becomes real. And I'm not ready for that. I spent the day combing through her emails. Not just recent ones. I dug back nearly a year. I wanted to understand the progression. Affairs don't just happen. They're built, like scaffolding around someone's soul. And hers had started long before the voice memos and Dropbox files. Long before the fake contracts and bedtime lies. I found flirtation disguised as networking. Subject lines like, quick question about branding, that turned into strings of inside jokes, lunch invites, late-night replies with sorry if this is too personal, followed by paragraphs of too personal. Messages where she'd type, he doesn't listen like you do, or I feel seen when we talk, or the devastating. I never get asked questions like this at home. That one nearly broke me. Because she was right. I had stopped asking her questions a long time ago. Somewhere between the bills and the stress and the slow death of comfort. I let the conversations get shallow. Surface level. Safe. But then I found something that wasn't safe at all. A confirmation email from an online bank. A welcome message. Buried deep in her promotions folder, probably didn't expect it to be seen. The account wasn't in her name. It was in her maiden name, with her middle name swapped in as the surname. The kind of thing only someone paranoid or practiced would do. And the balance? $42,800. Deposited in small amounts over the past 9 months. Not round numbers. Not obvious transfers. Just $400 here, $725 there. All from freelance invoices I thought I'd been paid for, but apparently never received. Turns out, she'd been redirecting payments. Using my client list. Sending slightly edited invoices from a lookalike email. And I'd thanked her for helping with admin stuff. The sheer stupidity of it made my ears ring. She was building a new life with my work, my income, and probably planning to hit the eject button the moment the money hit whatever imaginary threshold she needed to vanish. But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was who the account was connected to. There were shared access permissions granted to another user. I looked up the username. Didn't recognize it at first. Just a random string of letters. Until I remembered. It was the alias she used in college when she used to write short stories online. She thought it was cute. Like a secret pen name. She told me once, back when we used to share everything. And whoever that other user was. They were still actively transferring money. The most recent transaction was 2 days ago. Meaning she hadn't stopped. Not even after I heard the recording. Not after she handed me the earbuds like she was doing the noble thing. She was still funneling cash into an escape hatch while sleeping in my bed and offering me coffee like we were going to work through this. So I did something I didn't expect. I laughed. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was broken, bitter, jagged. The sound you make when you've fallen through the floor so many times that you start looking for basements under the basement. I took screenshots of everything. Printed copies. Made a second encrypted backup and hid it in a location I won't name here. Because now, it wasn't just about heartbreak. It was about evidence. Because when someone's carefully laying bricks to disappear, to erase you legally, financially, and emotionally, the worst thing you can do is confront them head-on. You don't kick down the house while they're still inside. You wait. You study the blueprints. And then you remove the one nail that holds up the entire frame. Sunday morning, the house was too quiet again. No footsteps overhead. No sound of the hairdryer she used to blast at jet engine levels. Not even her usual morning throat clearing. Something that used to annoy me so much I recorded it once as a joke. I would have killed to hear it now. I wandered the hallway in a trance, still wearing yesterday's shirt, clutching a coffee mug I hadn't sipped from. The sun was bleeding through the blinds in soft stripes, and for a moment, I convinced myself she was just out on a walk, maybe clearing her head. But the moment I stepped into our bedroom, the illusion shattered. The closet door was ajar. Half of her clothes were missing. Her red suitcase, the one with the broken zipper she always swore she'd replace, gone. And on the pillow where she used to sleep, there was a folded piece of paper. At first, I thought it was a letter. I expected it. I was ready to read the obligatory, "I never meant to hurt you," or "You deserve someone who truly sees you." I was even prepared for something cruel. I was numb to it by then. But this note wasn't for me. It was addressed to someone else. The name wasn't familiar. Not the guy from the voice memo. Not the vendor from the fake apartment application. A third name. I almost thought she left the wrong letter until I read the second line. Change of plan. I'm going dark for a while. I sat down hard on the edge of the bed. She didn't even say goodbye. Not to me. Not even out of guilt or pity. Just vanished, leaving a message for someone else like I was already erased from the story. The letter was vague. No return address. No contact details. But the way she wrote it, it felt like code. Like instructions. Use the Oregon line. No comms for 30 days. If the burner doesn't light, wait for the third drop. I didn't understand half of it. But what chilled me to my bones was this. She'd planned this entire thing like a spy movie. Multiple names. Secret accounts. A secondary apartment. And now, drop locations and blackouts? This wasn't cheating. This wasn't running away. This was disappearing. And I was still standing in the middle of the life she just walked out of, trying to piece together a puzzle she'd been solving for a year behind my back. I checked the house. Every room. She'd taken strange things. Her passport, a single photo of us from our trip to Asheville, a burner phone I didn't even know she had. She left behind her main phone. Wiped clean. Not factory reset. Wiped. My hands were shaking again. Not from panic, from clarity. She knew I'd go looking. And she left me nothing. Except, she made one mistake. She left the tablet she used for work in her bottom desk drawer, wedged beneath an expired gym membership and a tangled charger she never used. It was off. Locked. But I'd seen her type the passcode enough times. The same code she used when she was bored and played solitaire in bed while half watching documentaries she pretended to care about. I guessed it in 2 tries. And there it was. Her email. Not the one I knew about. A second one. Under a name I didn't recognize. Different profile picture. Different location. But it was her. And in that inbox, something I wasn't prepared for. She'd already reached out to a lawyer. 3 weeks ago. The subject line. Urgent. Preparing for contested divorce/asset separation. I opened the chain. She had already drafted claims that I had been emotionally abusive, that I had misused funds from our joint account, that I had violated her privacy. There were mock-ups of screenshots, fake ones, of me sending threatening messages. She even referenced an old voicemail I left her last year during a fight where I shouted about losing everything, twisting it, bending it into a narrative where I was unstable, dangerous, and financially reckless. She wasn't just planning to leave. She was planning to ruin me, erase me in court, take the house, take my business, paint me as the villain in a story where she got to walk away the victim. But what she didn't know, what she couldn't have planned for, was that I already had everything. Screenshots, files, transfers, voice memos, financial tracking, and now, emails from her own hidden account. She thought she burned the bridge, but I was already on the other side, watching the match fall. The lawyer I met with on Monday morning didn't ask many questions. He didn't need to. I handed him the flash drive, a manila envelope full of printed files, and a handwritten timeline of everything I'd discovered, every transfer, every forged document, every email she'd hidden. He flipped through the pages, his brow never lifting once. After about 20 minutes, he leaned back in his chair and said, "You're not here for revenge. You're here for survival." I nodded. He tapped his pen once on the folder. "Then we'll make this clean." And we did. In the weeks that followed, I stopped chasing her. I didn't need to. Her silence was already doing the work. Her sudden disappearance, her abandoned accounts, her wiped devices, it all began to backfire. Her lawyer withdrew within 2 days of receiving our evidence packet. The bank, once I filed the fraud claims, froze the account she'd funneled my money into. Several clients who'd paid her directly, thinking she was authorized, quietly returned funds once I showed them the real story. Everything she tried to build on top of me began to collapse under the weight of her shortcuts. I never pressed charges. I could have. I thought about it more times than I care to admit. But I realized something one morning as I stood on the back porch, coffee in hand, watching the steam curl into the early sunlight. I didn't want to spend one more second of my life being defined by what she did. I didn't want to build a new version of myself out of anger. So I didn't. I got my business back on track. I changed all my passwords. I rebuilt my client trust. I even switched my branding, changed my logo, and quietly launched a side project I'd shelved for years, an online print storefront that started gaining traction faster than I expected. I moved out of that house, left the furniture, left the ghosts, took only what was mine and what I needed. And as for her, I heard she tried to reinvent herself in another city. Different name, new job, but people talk, clients talk, and stories, they have a way of catching up. I don't wish her pain. I just hope she learns what it feels like to live without leverage. Because for a long time, she thought she held all the strings. And in the end, I just let go and walked away whole.